could be it would be his problem. So these are the different svaras that are discussed regarding this shaila. And then he discusses the shaila of a shoichet. Are you allowed to shecht, or are you allowed to have your butcher store open so that people who would otherwise maybe buy not kosher meat, could they buy? So the posek that Rabbi Elfin quoted was clearly not the posek that Mr. Pearl Olav Shalom consulted with, because the posek said absolutely you're not allowed to. If someone wants to go lehedya to do an aveira, you don't have to do an aveira to stop him, even though it's only a minute, not to shecht meat and not to process meat on Shabbos. Nevertheless, or do 9 days. Exactly. Sure, I remember I once sent a service technician to Mr. Martyr's building on Erev Shavuos, and he had a repair, and my guy tells Mr. Martyr, we'll be back right after the holidays. So Mr. Martyr says, no, you'll come back tomorrow. So my technician says, but Mr. Martyr, it's a Jewish holiday tomorrow. So Mr. Martyr says, my technician, Frank, listen carefully. You're my refrigeration mechanic. You're not my rabbi. Which you told me. Okay.
Marty, I think it was the same customer.
So that was the child. So they say that you don't. The mitzvahs. This posuk said mitzvahs are not bargaining chips, and you don't make the assessment. Should I? Shouldn't I? This all has to do with guidance. But I'm sure there's something lahater as well. And then he says the best shtickle of them all. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says, like he's dying from Rashi. From Rashi, you see that the only reason why it was a shaila whether or not I should do it is because the person was already over the avera, and here I'm going to intervene after the fact to prevent his oynish. Because Rashi takes in.
You're saving.
But what if a guy didn't do the avera yet? Then Zok Lubavitcher Rebbe, everybody would agree that you have to pull out all the stops. Everything's mutter to stop somebody from doing an avera l'chatchila. So I'm not sure exactly what the shaila was that the Rebbe was referring to, but he says klar from this Gemara. The only reason why there's hesitation is because the avera is already done. It was already put in daven. Finished, you pull out all the stops to protect another yid from doing an avera. Zok the Gemara weiter.
Right.
No, if you see he's going to do it, you have to prevent him.
I guess.
Yeah, the idea
We
is
don't know.
serious no.
Well, the
We don't
question
know the
is,
story. We don't know.
on Shabbos Hanukkah, are you allowed to drive your car around?
I guess my shiur got
To
his
Menorah.
How far are you willing to go? I should go out of my way.
I guess my shiur got his suck from the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
You can't. So the answer is no. The answer is
It's a lot of action. At the end of the day, are you allowed to drive your car around if it has a menorah on it on Shabbos? That's the real shaila. If it has a menorah, then it's on Shabbos.
with tefillin in the back.
Okay, Zok the Gemara weiter. So that was the shaila. So Zok the Gemara. Yichayim lo yadam chatei kedei sheyishka chavercha al marvashi lo olam b'mezit. Really, it's speaking where he did it b'mezit. Ve'ema koidim sheyavoy l'dei isur skila. And the shaila is to tell him himself, to allow him himself to take the bread out of the oven before he would do an isur skila. Rabbacha Berei Rava Masni Lo Behedya. Rabbacha Berei Rava actually learned this as a halacha, black and white. That it's speaking about mezit, and he quoted as follows: Omar Abiv Barbai Hidbik Pas Betaner. If you put the pas in the tanner already, Hitiru Loy L'Doisa. This is not a question; it's a statement. Hitiru Loy L'Doisa Kodim Shiyava L'Dei Isur Skila. We allow him to remove it before he could come to an isur skila. So Tosfos asks an obvious kasha. Let's just see the couple of lines in Tosfos. It's a third wide line. Kodim sheyavel le'isur skila. In terms of Tosfos, my boy Yehuzu, what type of question is this? Imitira l'doisa. Pshita shelo yishvelo nu masaloi. Even if we don't let him, he doesn't want to get skila. He's going to take it out anyway. Whether he didn't ask us before he put it in the oven, Now that he knows he's going to be chayiv skila, he's not asking us, he's going to take it out. Huge chiddush. If they didn't allow him to take it out, then loy mechayiv skila. If he leaves it there, he will not be chayiv skila. Kivan shemaniach milirdois. Since he's not taking it out, why is he not taking it out? Because we don't allow him to. It's a huge chiddush. He brings rives from the Gemaras, but since he's not taking it out because he's prevented by the Chachamim, he will not be chayiv skila.
So they made the gezerah to protect him. Because they made the gezerah.
They made it the gezerah nothing to do with someone putting it on Shabbos. They made it even for someone putting it before Shabbos.
But making the gezerah saves him from the oiled.
Ultimately it will. Yeah, ultimately it will. Yeah. And now Tosfos is another kasha. In time of fact, Tosfos, Heichi Osi l'dei chiv skila. How could this possibly come to a chiv skila? V'ha hasra sofekli. It's a hasra sofek. To be shosh heidbik pas betaner shema hayu b'dai tel redoisa kodim shiyavel le'isur skila. We know that if someone does an avera, in order for him to get an oynish for it, he has to be warned by Adam that will tell him, if you do this action, it's going to lead to skila. Now they could only make that hasra if they're 100% sure that this action will lead to a chiyav skila, or even a chiyav malchus. Like for instance, if a guy makes a shvua that I'm not going to eat, they can't warn him if you eat you'll be chayav malchus, because they don't know if he's going to eat now. Maybe he'll eat later. It's not sure that he's going to be over the avera right away after the hasra. So here too, when he's putting it in the oven, they're going to warn him, if you put it in the oven, you're going to get skila. How do they know? Maybe he's going to take it out before it bakes. So how could someone ever get skila for putting something in the oven to bake, since the avera is not completed? The skila will not be triggered until the item is fully baked, and we don't know if he's going to leave it there until it's fully baked. So that's Tosfos' kasha.
Why would he put it in the first place?
You can't give somebody for murder unless they murder somebody. So how can you warn them, don't go and murder somebody if they never do the action?
Very good question. If you're standing with a gun and you're about to pull the trigger, I could say, if you pull the trigger...
Yeah, but maybe I'm just trying to scare him. I'm just threatening.
You're right. But if you are planning to kill him and you pull the trigger, you'll be chayav misa.
Yes.
Here, even if you put it in the oven, even if you do this and put it in the oven, you still have chayav misa.
Why not?
It takes an hour.
Why would he put it in the first place?
Yes, because you can go pull it out.
I feel I have to say that.
I should add, you're 100% right. I should add, they have to warn him right before he does the avera. The warning expires a couple of minutes later, because he can say, I forgot to warn you.
So they have to be sitting by watching it bake and saying, hang on, it's almost done.
No,
okay, now,
because Tosfos says, once he put it in the oven, right before it bakes, they can't warn him, because he's already done the action. So you're stuck on
Yossi, why would he put it in the first place?
No, so if he's about to take it out, so
Every bolt is fatal. Yeah, he's bleeding away. So when do you do this?
So how do you know he's trying to kill? Okay, so these are all good kashas. These are all good kashas. These are that's a technical kasha. How could they be sure? How could they be sure that he's even trying to kill? That he's warning. I don't know.
Why would he put it in
but
the
they
oven?
can tell him, if you're planning to kill and you do kill, so
Yossi, why would he put it in the oven if he wasn't planning on baking it?
I don't know. There's a lot of cooks out there.
What?
There's a lot of cooks out there. But
saying
that's you're
pretty
touching
obvious.
on a good point. So let's see how Tosfos answers it. Because touch on what you're saying.
By Sfiras HaOmer, when they go on the Omer to cut it on Shabbos, they say to him, Shabbos HaYom, they say, hey,
Let's go for it.
let's go for it.
Now we're going to do it.
Now we're going to do it. So the key is just to put in the knowledge in his head that what you're doing can be usher.
Yeah.
That's the point. When they cut the Omer on Shabbos and Mechal Shabbos, they said, you know today's Shabbos? You don't. I don't know how much you have to tell them about the killing is usher. You know that killing Minat Torah is usher? Yes, I know it's a
No, that tell him, if you do this, you'll be chayiv skila.
Right. So if you end up killing, you'll be chayiv. Then the knowledge is there, whether the bullet is fatal or it's not. So long you put into his mind, oven and it bakes.
So let's see Tosfos' comment. In terms of fact, how will this ever come to a chiv skila? How can you ever get skila for baking something in an oven? At the moment when this fellow put the pas in the tanner, at the end he didn't take it out. Maybe he forgot the hasra, because now it's already an hour later. V'tir triva, which is ka'en what Duvi said, the kivan shehidbik toich kedei dibur shel asura. Since toich kedei dibur of the asura, you actually put it in the oven, and based on the status quo, if no one interferes at this point, ubavadai toifa im lo yurdena, if no one interferes and takes the bread out of the oven, it will for sure complete its course and bake. Lav asura sofaku. That's a chiddush HaTosfos. If you're doing an action, that after you do that action, no additional action is required, and if you leave it with the status quo, it will become an isser. That's not called asura sofak. The vadai lehoye bedaitoi lirdois koydem afia. We can assume that he surely was not intending to take it out before it was baked, like Duvi says. What type of meshugana put something into an oven with the intention to take it out? What's a good example of a hasra sofik? If someone goes to a nest and takes the mother away from the children and does not make shluch hakan, the amber prepared for eloy naloikin bitloi v'le botloi tishema lo yishper kanfel. If you're bitloi, you're not chayiv, you're not over the issur by alav adidik lasei until you created a scenario where it's now impossible to complete the mitzvah. So there, since he did not yet break the wings of this mother, it's still possible that he'll make the shiluach, and therefore, or maybe he won't shech to the birds, and therefore that's asur sofik. However, in our case, clearly, since for sure, if he leaves it the way it is, it's going to come to the afiyah, we consider that a proper asura and not asura sofik, and that's why the shaila is, can he remove it to save himself from skila? Okay, so let's go back to the case. The Ani had something in his hand. I like saying he had the receipt in his hand, and he puts it in the house, and he doesn't take it out. And then the balabais takes the paper, the receipt out of the Ani's hand and takes it. So the halacha is, I'm sorry, that's not the case. That cannot be the case, because we're talking about a case where he's chayiv. This is a case where the Ani stuck his hands out, and the balabais put something into his hand. And we say the balabais is chayiv. So the balabais is chayiv because he made a hanocha into the hand of the Ani. He didn't place the object on the floor, he made the hanocha into the hand of the Ani. Frek the Gemara, am I chayiv? Why is the balabais chayiv if he placed something onto the hand of the Ani? Or vice versa, why is the Ani chayiv if he placed something onto the hand of the balabais? In order to be chayiv for haitzah, both the akira has to be from a place that's dalet al dalet, and the hanocha has to be on a place that's dalet al dalet. Where did we get that from? Rashi says the reason why we need that is to have a choshev l'mahava hanachasoi hanocha v'akirasoi akira. It has to, in order for it to be a malacha, the landing strip and the takeoff strip have to be a makom choshev. The yodoi lav makom dalethu, and a hand is not considered a makom choshev. Tosfos says it's comparable whenever you look at a malacha to see if something passes the threshold of malacha, it has to be similar to what was done in the Mishkan. In the Mishkan, things always took off and landed from a makom dalet al dalet.
I thought that if you put something in the Ani's hand's a karma. So we talk about that. He's not chayiv.
Well, the Gemara had a shaila if it was a kaimelis.
Is that one of the cases?
No.
The Ani sticks empty hand and
the shaila where it was potter of al-asr is if one person did the akira and one person did the anocha. It wasn't because of the place where it occurred. It's because the whole malacha was not done by the same person. Right? Like if the Ani did...
Yeah, so in your case you said that Ani sticks an open hand in through a window and the balabais put something in his hand, they both should be potter.
No, that's not the case I'm referring to. I'm referring to the case where the balabais takes something from inside,
yes,
and he passes it out and he puts it into the Ani's hand. In
So
that case, the balabais is chayiv.
The Ani is sticking his hand
I
out.
think this case is...
Okay, so then there's the hakira, right? So then the kira is from a makom dalet al dalet. So either way, if it's starting off in his hand or ending off in his hand, that shouldn't be a proper place. So that's the shayla. But we not akira v'anocha mi'al gabi makom dalet al dalet. FREILECHEN, you don't have that. Omer Rabba, Hamani Rabbi Kiva. We're going, Hamani Rabbi Kiva. It's going according to Rabbi Kiva. The Amr Leibo Inon Makam Arba Arba. He holds you never need a Makam Arba Arba because wherever something is, it's always considered as if it's on the floor. It's non we learned. Hazorik Rishus Hayochid Lishus Hayochid. If someone threw an object from one Rishus Hayochid to another Rishus Hayochid, Rishus Harabim Bemtza. So Kilu, if you throw a tennis ball from your house into your house, the house of your neighbor who lives across the street, and it crosses a Rishus Harabim, assuming that there is a Rishus Harabim in between your homes. So Rabbi Kiva Machayiv, Rabbi Kiva holds your Chayiv, the Chachamim Poitrim. Now the only reason why you would be Chayiv is if you went from a Rishus Hayochid to a Rishus Harabim, because from a Rishus Hayochid to a Rishus Hayochid might not have a Chayiv. That's going to be the subject of the discussion on Amud Beis. But for now we'll assume that there's no Chayiv for going from Rishus Hayochid to Rishus Hayochid through a Rishus Harabim. The whole problem will be is that you went from a Rishus Hayochid to a Rishus Harabim. Rabbi Kiva said it's Chayiv because we say a klal of Kaluta Kimishon Chodami. When something is flying in the airspace above the Rishus Harabim, it's as if it actually is in the Rishus Harabim. V'chachamim poitrim, and the Chum say we potter. Rabbi Kiva over Amrin, you say Kaluta Kimishon Chodami. When something is within the airspace of the Rishus Harabim, it's as if it's in the Rishus Harabim itself. As Rashi says, Pluta Chayfetz, Hoyel v'niklat ba'avira, Shal Rishus Harabim, Kemish Shal Hundcha b'soichehu. It's as if it's on the floor of the Rishus Harabim, V'afagav d'loi noch, even though it has not landed. For Rabbanan Savri, Lo Yamrin and Kluta, Kemish Shal Hundcha dami. So Rabbi wants to say that our Mishnah would stem according to Rabbi Kiva, and the fact that it's in your hand is irrelevant. Your hand is merely a way to allow this chayfetz to hover over the land that's below your hand. And really, it's really correct. That's right. And then when he takes it out, he's moving it to Rishus Harabim.
But the Balbais should be chayiv. Here was in the Balbais.
Well, what is the case? Let's talk about a
He
specific
puts his hand empty.
Right.
Balbais puts his hand. So there's an Akira and an Anoch.
Where's that key?
The Balbais took it from Rishus Hayochid, put it into his hand.
And where's the hand currently?
In the hands of
Rishus Hayochid. It's in his
So
Rishus.
then that's not the case of Chiyuv.
Yeah, it can't be the case.
The case of Chiyuv is that the Balbais had it in his hand, and they only took it out of the Balbais' hand. So he made an Akira from the Balbais' hand, and then he pulled it in. So the question is, the Akira was not a good Akira because it was in the Balbais' hand.
But at that point, he was in the Rishus Hayochid. So you're saying it's Kluta Commission.
That's right. It was like it was in the Rishus Hayochid, and then when he pulls it in, it's in his hand still. But it's also like it landed in the Rishus Harabim. So to Gemara, Rabbi seems to say that our mission is only according to Rabbi Kiva. So it seems that like Rabbi has it clear that Pshitla the Rabbi to be Kluta Kabishahun Chodami, that the machloikis between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, in other words, the case of Azorik Rishus Hayochid, Rishus Hayochid, Rishus Harabim Be'emtza, you're saying, Rabbi, that the machloikis is if it's Kluta Kabishahun Chodami. If that's the case, you have to say that the case is Uvesoich Asar Pligi, because you'll only Kluta Kabishahun Chodami if the chayfetz that's hovering over Rishus Harabim is within 10 tefachim of the ground. If it's above 10 tefachim, you do not say Kluta Kabishahun Chodami. So by Rabbah saying that the machlokes between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim is whether or not you say Kluta Kabishahun Chodami, it must be that he interprets their machlokes to be referring to a case where it was always within 10 tefachim of the ground. And we know Rabbah wasn't so sure that that was the machlokes between Rabbi Kiva and the Tanakama. Because Vami boy loy Rabbah. We know Rabbah actually had a suffix as to what the exact machlokes was between Rabbi Kiva and the Tanakama. The boy Rabbah, lemata miyut pligi. Do you say, like we're learning here, that the machlokes Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim is when the chayfetz is less than 10 tefachim high, pligi, and then the machlokes would be like we discussed. To Rabbi Kiva Savar Kluta Kamishon Chodami, to Rabbanan Savar Lo Yamin Kluta Kamishon Chodami. Is that the reason? Aval Amayla Miyud. But in the case where I threw something from Rishus Hayochid through a Rishus Harabim into another Rishus Hayochid, and it was always as across the Rishus Harabim, it was above 10 tefachim, Divrei Akal Potter. Everybody would hold that would be Potter. And why would that be Potter? Uduchul Amal Lo Yalfinin Zoyrik Mimoshim. So this takes us to a whole new sugya. In the Beis Hamikdash, when they carry the crushim, they had big wagons that they would carry the crushim in. And each of these wagons were actually higher than 10 tefachim. So imagine there's two wagons that pull up side by side. There's a patch of Rishus Harabim in between the two wagons. So imagine two wagons are driving along the 401, and they decided they want to stop and transfer cargo from one wagon to the other wagon. So they didn't throw it, they actually passed it across. So the people in wagon A passed over the crushim to the people in wagon B. So that's an exact case of moishit from one Rishus HaYachid, which is the surface of one wagon, to the other Rishus HaYachid, which was the surface of the other wagon, going through the airspace of the Rishus HaRabim. Now they didn't throw. And there's actually Shiloh why they didn't throw. The Yerushalmi said they didn't throw because it's not Mcgillvray to throw crushim around, right?
It's too big anyway. They were huge.
Because they'll crush you. That's what they're called crushing. Right, that's the other shot. They'll get crushed, so you can't throw it.
They're going to get crushed or they're going to crush?
One of the above. So I'll call upon them the case of the malacha that occurred in the Mishkan was a case of Moshe. So the question is, do we say that just like the malacha of Moshe is usher because that's what they actually did, would that also extend to Zer? Because what's the difference if I'm merely passing or if I'm tossing? Either way, I'm doing the same thing.
You could have done that with the rings, with the smaller pieces.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah. Someone told me last week that a ring is a magical thing. You can take two deadbeat boards and make them come together.
Depends how big the ring is.
Okay. Zog more weiter. Rabban Savi lo yamin include the commission chadami, aval amayl miyud. But if it's above 10, divrei kol potter, everybody would hold its potter. Why? Because we're talking about throwing, and the Mishkan's melacha was passing. Everybody would agree that throwing above 10 tefachim would not be a problem. But there was another option how Rabbi learned to machlokes Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan, and that was l'may l'miyud pligi. They're actually arguing with dafke l'may l'miyud uvaha pligi, and that's precisely what the machlokes is about. The Rabbi Akiva savar yalfinan zarek mimoshit. Just like in the Beis Hamikdash or by the Mishkan, moshit was usher, so too zarek will be usher. For Rabbanan Savri lo yalfinan zarek mimoshit. And the Rabbanan holds you don't learn zarek from moshit, and therefore it would not be a melacha. But in the case where this whole thing occurred under 10 tefachim, divrei hakoil chayiv, everybody would hold it would be chayiv. My timer, arminin kluto kamishon chadami. Zoktumor holo kasha. That's not a kasha. You know why? Because Rabbi seems to be saying by us that he seems to be sure that the machlokes is by kluto kamishon chadami. You're telling me he had a suffix. You're right. It's at different points in time. Boser di boy hadav shitale. At one point he wasn't sure what the machlokes it was. But now that he says with confidence that our Mishnah is only going according to Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva holds Kluta Kamisha Honchadami, that means Rabbi now is sure that the Machlokes in fact is telling that, and everybody agrees that if it's Lamayla Miyud it will be Potter because Lo Yalfinon Zoyrek Mimoshe.
When you throw from one wagon to the next wagon, and you toss it, and it doesn't. You're not tossing it all the way on the ground. You're tossing it from an elevated platform to an elevated
above
platform
10
to above 10 tefachim. So, and if the platform is lower than 10 tefachim, I'm not sure I understand why.
If it's lower than 10 tefachim, then you say Kluta Kamisha Honchadami.
So that's as if you threw it all the way to the ground.
Correct.
But if it's above, it's as if somebody is receiving it. It's similar to a hand.
No, then it's not going. It's not going.
Not
to
received. Period.
It's
if
not
you don't,
so
you
it's
don't
above.
say Kluta Kamisha Honcha, so it's like you're going from one Rishus HaYachid to the next Rishus HaYachid, and there is no malacha to go from one Rishus HaYachid to the next Rishus HaYachid.
So wait a minute. In our case, if it's reversed, if the usher takes something from his house, Balbai sticks it out. So according to Rabbi Akiva, he doesn't have to put it in the oni's hand. He's already over the second he sticks it out.
Correct. The hand is irrelevant. It's the fact that it's in the airspace.
So that case where we said if he sticks his hand out, he's got to leave it there until after Shabbos. He's already over. He might as well just take his hand back.
Well, that's a good point. But I was thinking to myself that the problem, it might not be considered hanocha when it's in his hand because it's still not settled. Maybe once it's in a
What's the
in a,
difference
in a
if
stationary
he's
place.
throwing? It's for sure not settled. So if he's over in that case, if once you stick your hand out, then he's.
It could be his hand is a mobile device. He has to put it sort of into a stationary device to make it that it's munach. Otherwise, it's still in. He could turn around and come back. Right.
So he can boomerang it too. When he
Right.
throws it, he can throw a boomerang.
That's right. And then it probably wouldn't be considered the malacha. That's right.
I understand. If he had the kasha, before he had the kasha, how would he said something?
Before who had the question? Rabba.
The question is, how would he set on our Gemara, our Mishnah, if he had this kasha?
Well, he could have.
On one
He
of
could
the
have said it's
Sfadim, it
both.
doesn't make sense.
He could have said it's both. On one, if the machlokes or Akiva and the Rabbanan was about if you learn Zohar from Moshe, but if it's Pachas from you, everybody agrees, including Mishlocha, so Rabbi should have said it goes to everybody. Why did Rabbi say it's going to Akiva? You see, he was sure. Zaktumar, you're right. He was sure at that point. The Savilar Bosidi boy had the Shitla the Savilar Akiva Klutu Kivishachadavi. Fact Gemara, but so now that we took care of Rava's Shitas to Shaila, let's analyze is Rabba. I'm sorry, it's not Rabba, it's Rabba. Let's analyze is Rabba's teretz a good teretz. Rabba said that our Mishnah is working with the klal of Kluta Kamisha Chadami. Freit Gemara, how could that be? V'dilma hanacha hu delay boy hakir boy. All Rabbi Akiva said is Kluta Kamisha hun Chadami. You had to make a proper akira from a proper landed, grounded space. When you're making the hanacha, maybe the hanacha doesn't need as serious as a hanacha. But here we have the problem with the akira as well. How could you use Rabbi Akiva as a makar? From Rabbi Akiva, you only see that a hanacha is good enough. And of course, you have to agree that there's a difference between the akira and the hanacha, and you'd have to say that the akira needs a more of a significant base to start from. Rashi says, "V'dum anachud leboy v'deknei Rabbi Akiva mechayiv aval akira boy malgabe mokum dalid." And Rashi says you could be medayik from Rabbi Akiva, in fact, that you need an akira. You know why? Midaloika tani Rabbi Akiva mechayiv shtayim achas mishum yitzah v'achas mishum achnasa. Let's see what's happening here. It's flying from a Rosh Hashanah over a Rosh Hashanah to a Rosh Hashanah. If it's an akira, he should be mechayiv twice.
Right.
Once for the akira from the Rosh Hashanah into the Rosh Hashanah, once for the akira into the Rosh Hashanah, and the anach into the Rosh Hashanah.
Right. That's why the guy can't take his hand back in if he stuck it out on Shabbos, right? Because then it'd be over twice.
Every word he says is making it worse. Okay, so that's the Gemara's kasha. So therefore, Rabba's suggestion of using Kluta Kamisha Hunchadami is not going to work here. Alam Rabbi Yosef, Hamani, who will you be able to explain our Mishnah with? Again, why is it a good akira and a hanacha? A hand is not a mokam dalid al dalid. Let's find someone else who'll help us with that. Rebbe, hi Rebbe. Don't think this is the final stop. We have many more stops until we find somebody. Hi Rebbe, which Rebbe? Ilema ha Rebbe. If it's this shita of Rebbe, the Tanya we learned in the Brisa, if you're in Rosh Hashanah and you threw something dalid amas Rosh Hashanah, v'noch, and it rested not on the floor, al gabe ziz kol shehu. There was a wall that was along the Rosh Hashanah, and there was a little protrusion from that wall that formed a small surface, and what you threw landed on that surface. Rebbe mechayiv, Rebbe hold your chayiv, v'chacham and poitrim. So at first glance, it seems like Rebbe clearly holds you never need the whole concept of requiring a makam dalad al dalad, because the makam choshev, that whole thing, Rebbe disagrees with. It's enough if it's even on the small little thing. No, Rebbe has a special reason there that would not apply here. Hasam kidiba'inan lememer lekaman, like the Gemara is forced to explain later on in the Gemara, kidabaye, to Amar Abaye, hacha be'ilan ha'ayimid b'shus ha'yachid. We're talking about a tree that was in Rosh Hashanah, v'noifoi noitel Rosh Hashanah, and its branch hangs over in Rosh Hashanah. V'zorach, you were in Rosh Hashanah, you threw something 4 amis, v'noch anoifoi, and it landed on the branch of this tree that was based in Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe Savar Armin and Shadi Nufai Basar Yikrei. Rebbe says that you say that even though it's where it actually landed on the tree, it was not a makam dalad al dalad, but since the base of the tree is a makam dalad al dalad, you say that when it lands on the branch, it's as if it landed on the tree. And that's why Rebbe said it's chayiv. For Abban Savri, loy amri shadi gufay basa ikrei. Now, why wouldn't that same svara of Rebbe work by a human? Even though my hand is not a dalad al dalad, k'nai nahara, the rest of my body might be a dalad al dalad. So, the trunk, yeah, the trunk. So, this Sfas Emes says is that by a tree, which every part is not such a davar choshev, you could say that the branch is just an extension of the trunk. But by a human, where hands are quite independent, and they're independent aver, there you would not say, Rebbe would not say that if it landed on your hand, it's as if it landed on your trunk.
I don't understand the Sfas Emes. What did the Sfas Emes say?
The Sfas Emes says, Rebbe has a yisoid, that if it lands on a branch, it's as if it landed on the base tree, right? Even though the branch is not a makam dalad dalad, but since the base tree is a dalad al dalad, we'll say the branch is
That's what the Sfas Emes. Sfas Emes was talking about what's more important, what's davar choshev compared to the trunk. So the branches are choshev to the trunk, and the hand is choshev to the trunk of the person.
No, the Sfas Emes says a hand is an independent limb.
If you chop off the trunk of the hand, is the hand going to run around?
The way Rabbi Elvin quoted him is it has its own name and it has its own purpose.
And a branch doesn't have its own name and its own purpose? I don't see that.
I guess it's not as distinct. It's not as distinct.
Doesn't move.
Doesn't have its own mind really the same way that
And the hand has its own mind.
Oh yeah.
Chaim, I want to tell you something.
It's not me.
Chaim, you probably noticed that whenever I say a svara, sometimes I quote the author and sometimes I don't quote the author. When I'm really confident that I understand the svara, I don't quote the author. I don't quote the author because the svara stands for itself. But when I'm not clear myself, I have to name drop.
To give it validity.
And even that I got from article. Did the article bring down the Sfas Emes? Rabbi Elvin spoke about the Sfas Emes. I was actually learning the Gemara and I couldn't understand it. My mom couldn't understand it, and I gave up, and I was planning to come to shiur and say I don't understand it. And then as I was walking, I actually walked to shul this morning because I don't have a car anymore because all my kids are home. You know, there's no room for me. I'm already thinking like I'm a from how it's going to work. But,
That brings a good kasha. Why does the trunk have to be Rosh Hashanah? Even if the trunk was a Rosh Hashanah?
that's Tosfos' kasha. Yeah, so that's a whole different shaila. The whole purpose of the trunk and the branch is only about that we're on the makam dalad dalad.
4 elements anyway.
Right.
But
It's not to do with
it's a
Shirah
bigger
B'Shirah.
kiddush
It's not to do
when
with
the
Shirah
trunk
B'Shirah.
when the trunk is in the
That's
Rosh Hashanah.
And that the whole big Tosfos. There's a whole big Tosfos about
supposed
it.
to
But
be
it's not
making
that.
Shul.
You're making the guy chayiv. He never his item never left Rosh Hashanah in this case.
Right, but it's
And you
chayav
make it-
dalad amos b'shus rabbim.
It's chayiv. No, he's chayiv in Hoitzah, right?
No, it's chayav because it was dalad amos b'shus rabbim.
Or dollar.
Well, that's actually what Tosfos
Oh, okay.
downs on. Is it chayiv because it's either Rosh Hashanah
Yeah, 'cause
or is
that's
it
a much
chayiv
bigger
because it's
kiddush.
Rosh Hashanah?
It's a big kiddush to make the guy chayiv on that.
Yeah.
So,
But the main yisoid is that it's considered a mokam dalad al dalad. That's what we're trying to
Right.
extract
for this,
from
for
Rebbe.
this purpose.
so what did you understand on the way to shul? What did he cut you off?
No, I heard this Sfas Emes. So he said a svara that I could say over, even though I don't have clarity, because you're asking good. Yeah, I don't have clarity in it, but the Sfas Emes says that a hand is more distinct from a body than a branch is from a tree. You know, clearly, you see, he didn't watch cartoons.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, Zak to Gemara.
Relevant to each other, they're the same. That was
The ones I guess over the cliff, right? The ones
I didn't
Back
understand it.
where you
So,
hold on
but the Sfas Emes, at least I'm happy enough that when I didn't understand it, I thought I was tired and I couldn't get my head around it and I was missing something. The moment the Sfas Emes asked the kasha, I'll leave you know it's a legitimate kasha. What's the difference between the tree and the branch and the hand and the person? Ella, ha Rebbe, so it has to be a different Rebbe. Titania, Rebbe is not a one-trick pony. Rebbe has other halachas that he can share with us. Titania, Zarek Rishus HaRabim, Rishus HaRabim. If someone threw something from a Rishus HaRabim to a Rishus HaRabim, Rishus HaYachid B'emsa. So this is exactly the opposite case of the Agolim, of the I forgot what they're called. I'm so tired. Rishus HaYachid B'emsa, of the Krushim, right. Rebbe Mechayiv, Rebbe hold us Chayiv, V'chacham Poitrim, and the Chum hold us Potter. The Omer of Yehuda, Omer Shmuel, and if Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Mechayiv Hoyer Rebbe Shtayim. Rebbe holds you're Chayiv twice when it went from Rishus HaRabim through our Rishus HaYachid into the Rishus HaRabim. Achash Mishum Oitzah, ve'achas mishum achnosa. So you see clearly alma loy bo akira v'loy hanocha al gabe mokum dalet al dalet, because it merely passed through the airspace of the Rishus HaYachid, and we consider it both a hanocha to be mechayev you for haitzah, and as an akira to be mechayev you for, I'm sorry, it's choshev a hanocha to be mechayev you for hachnasa, and it's considered an akira to be mechayev you for haitzah. So tomorrow from there you don't have a raya either, because ha'itmer Allah Rav Shmuel Damri Tevayu, on that member Rav and Shmuel both agreed on something, so it has to be true. Loy mechayev Rebbe ela b'rishus hayachid mekora. The only type of case where Rebbe says that when it goes through the airspace of a Rishus HaYachid, it's like it landed in the Rishus HaYachid, is only if that Rishus HaYachid had a cover over it, it had a roof. And the reason why there you say it is not because you say Kluta Kamisha Huncha, and not because you say that you don't need a Hanacha on a Mokam Dalad al Dalad. Rather, Damrinan Basic Command Mal Yudami. When something has a roof, you look at it as if the entire airspace is full. So when it's traveling through, it's actually on imaginary items that are filling up the warehouse. But if there was no roof over it, you need a Mokam Dalad al Dalad. So right now we're Yossi Simon once again. We don't have anyone who can explain to us why a mere hand is something that's a dover choshev that's considered an akira and a nacha. And if you want to say that our Mishnah is also speaking in a case where there was a roof, so this Gvir was a nice guy, he actually had an awning outside his house that extended onto the street, so that when the Meshalachim came, while they were waiting outside, they wouldn't have to get wet. I understand why in Rishus HaYachid you'd have an awning. Rishus HaRabim, Makarim Michayev, would it help with an awning? We understand you say basic command Mal Yadami if it's a covered Rishus HaYachid, but a covered Rishus HaRabim, the cover shouldn't have an impact. And I'll show you and I'll prove to you that it doesn't have an impact, because Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav, we're talking about serious name dropping here. Hamaver Chefetz Dal Ramas B'Rishus HaRabim Mukura. If you move a chefetz 4 amas in Rishus HaRabim, but the entire Rishus HaRabim was covered, Potter, you're Potter, you know why? It doesn't qualify as a malacha that was done in the Mishkan because it's covered. So same thing over here. If the Rishus HaRabim is covered, that should, if anything, that should undo its status of Rishus HaRabim. So that surely shouldn't qualify to create an Isra Tzah. Well, the oil of mace is not has nothing to do with rishuyos. That's a different issue.
We connect it, even though you're not.
Yeah, but I think even if the oil extended into Rishus HaRabim, you would become Tomei.
Yeah, right,
but it wouldn't work Lagabi making it into a Rishus for a carry. Yeah.
Seems like the Gemara knows for certain that, or the Tana knows, the Moyer knows for certain that they didn't have covers in the minhag.
Yeah, it wasn't typical to have covers over Rishus HaRabim.
Okay.
Right? So I guess that's how they knew. So we have to go to Acherim. The Tanya, Acherim Oimrim, Amad Bim Koima. This is a very interesting thing. When I always think about when we play baseball. When we played baseball, and something came to me, if it came right to me and it landed in my glove, I caught it. If it went anywhere else besides in my glove, exactly where it was supposed to, I didn't catch it. That's why I was always the third level of left field, like after there were 2 people in front of me. Unless it fell into my glove, how do you expect me to catch it? And I remember to get so upset at me every time I would miss a catch, because I would mess up the game. So that's exactly what I was an Acherim type of guy. The Tanya Acherim Oimrim, Amad Bim Koimoi, if someone threw something Dalad Amis, and you just stood there with like me with my baseball glove, and it fell right in, V'kibel Chayiv, that would make the thrower Chayiv, because he did the Akira and the Anocha. I'm just a stationary device. But Akar Bim Koimoi, if I had to run to catch the ball, which never happened, the Kibel, then Potter, then the guy who threw it is Potter, because he didn't make the Hanacha, I made the Hanacha. Amad Bim Koimoi, the Kibel Chayiv, why? Haba'inin Hanacha, Agabi Mokim Dalad Veleka, Elishma Mina, Loi Ba'inan, Mokim Arba. You see that you don't need a hanocha on the Mokim Arba. In fact, the more Doma Hanocha Hud Loi Ba'inan, Hakir Ba'inan. We're right back to the question we had before on Rabbah, that we're only talking about the Anocha, but what about Akira? V'Anocha Nami, and the Anocha as well, Dilma de Pashit Kantvei V'Kiblei. Maybe he maybe in the case of the acherim, why am I chayiv if it fell into my hand? Because I spread out my beged and I made myself into a mokum dalet al dalet. So you don't even know that over there was no dalet al dalet. The kanami anocha. Amar Abba, we're going to try now a different solution. Maybe masnisin kegoyin. The Bach changes the gears here, and the Bach tells us kegoyin she'okra mitraskal. The oni or the usher, whoever was holding it, was not holding it in his hand. He actually had a big basket that was dalet al dalet. So it came out of a basket. V'nichal gabi traskal, and when it was moved to the other rishos, it also went into a basket. The economy anacha. In fact, it's a very, very nice shot. The only problem is that's not what the Mishnah says. V'yodai katani. It says yodai, and it doesn't say traskal. So Gemara, tani traskal should be yodai.
Where's Dave?
Right? So, that's right. Dave, I hope you're listening. It says tani traskal should be yodai. It doesn't say it, but it means it. So Gemara, ha tenech traskal b'shus hayochid. I understand that if the traskal is b'shus hayochid, it's a makam dalar dalar, and it'll work. El traskal should b'shus harabim b'shus hayochid. If you have a traskal in Rishus Hayochid, in Rishus Harabim, the traskal itself becomes its own Rishus Hayochid. So now you don't have a hanacha or an akira from Rishus Harabim, unless you argue on your Yossi Yehuda. Lemid like Yossi Yehuda, the Tanya Yossi Yehuda Aimer, not kana Rishus Harabim. You took a thin pole and you anchored it in Rishus Harabim, uberosher traskal, and you hung a basket on it. Zorak, if you threw from Rishus Harabim, v'noch al gabov, and your chavetz landed in this basket, chayiv. Your chayiv is if you took something from Rishus Harabim to Rishus Hayochid. So you see the traskal in Rishus Harabim has a status of Rishus Hayochid. The Kabir Yehuda, Poshet Balabais Yodei Lechutz, V'nosnu Tach Yodei Shel Ani, Amai chayiv. Rishus Hayochid, Rishus Hayochid Kamafik. He's going from his Rishus Hayochid to the Ani's Rishus Hayochid. So to Gemara, Afilu Temer Beis Yehuda, Hasam Lamai Lemiyud. There, in the case of Rabbi Yossi Yehuda, it was above 10 tvachim. Hachalamatami and maybe let's say in our Mishnah it was lamata miyud, and therefore even though it's in a traskal, it could be considered a rishus harabim.
Like sitting down?
What?
Sitting in the basement.
Sitting down? Usually someone stands.
And he's
So
stuck in
like
the basement.
Gemara,
I'm thinking
so
sports
Chaim Tidas
analogy.
Gemara
The guy
Kasha.
makes a
Kasha le
fingertips
Rabavo.
catch.
Mika tani traskal shbiyadoi. Vayadoi katani. It says hand. Oh no, I lied.
The basket.
It's going to come later.
Even with the
Gemara
basket's
doesn't say
higher
it.
up.
But the Gemara is
No,
sensitive.
it's the size
The Gemara
of
will
the
discuss it.
basket.
Mika tani
The size of the
traskal shbiyadoi.
yeah.
Does it say traskal
These are
shbiyadoi?
dollar.
Vayadoi katani. Again, David Zolti would ask that
big
kasha.
glove.
It says yod, it doesn't say traskal shbiyadoi.
Oh,
Amar
it's
Bavo, going to shil shel yodoi lamata migimo v'kivlo. It's speaking on top on his hand, but he had his hand right on the ground.
Yeah,
So
shoestring
now you say
That's what I said.
Now
It's
you
a
say it's on the
shoestring
ground. If it's
catch.
within three, it's
Right.
like it's on the ground. He's standing. If he's standing, there's no way someone can touch the toes. You know, how can someone reach the ground if he's standing? Right? That's not even the scripture. Right? So no, maybe it's speaking where he is bending down. Or maybe it's speaking where the guy was in a pit. So if he held his hand at a normal height, that was parallel right over to ground level. Or maybe he was a very short person, and that's why he was on the ground. So now it's a very modern case. We're making such a crazy ukimta in the Mishnah. We said the other. We could have just said the Balabais took it and put it into Rishus Harabim, or the only took it and put it into Rishus Hayochid. It picked the case of a hand, and because of that, we have to learn that it's speaking to the guys in a pit, or the guy's a midget, or the guy is doing something really weird, which is even more unusual than a pit, and more unusual than a midget, that he's touching his toes. Right? How are you talking? Right? So therefore, the Tana picked the case of Yad to teach us such unusual cases. This is the final answer. Yadoi shall Adam, contrary to what you believed until now, Yadoi shall Adam chashuva loy kedar al adalad. The hand of a person is considered like a dalad al dalad. V'chenki asaravan amar v'yochanan Yadoi shall Adam chashuva loy kedar al dalad.
It's not the size.
Just the hand.
That's right.
No, because the
It's
Gemara
not the
went to
hand.
chocolate and
Because
time.
it has the ability.
It has the ability
ability to
to
receive
control
something.
cities.
Right.
Right?
It is-
A credit can hold a credit card. You know what a hand can hold? Frank is what a hand can hold. So the yad of a hand is a dover choshev, minei obey, and therefore an akira from a hand and a hanoch from a hand is considered a dover choshev, and there's no malacha.
Look how hard the Gemara tried not to have
So
to come
in,
to
So the dollar is not really halacha at the end of the day.
What?
And dalet al dalet is
It
not
is for
really.
something stationary.
But the hand is considered a love.
Like what would it be?
If you had a post or something.
pedestal?
Yeah. But a hand is something special.
Yeah, that's good. This
So a hand is
bothering
an
me.
exception really to the normal dalet al
chashuv,
dalet.
not an exception.
It's
It's
chashuv
chashuv
as a
dalet
dalet al dalet.
Because
Not a
of its
finger.
chashivas.
Not
Not a
finger.
finger, but a hand.
What?
And one hand is enough.
I don't understand why.
Al yodai.
Why don't we start with describing what a Rosh Hashanah is and what a Rosh Hashanah is?
Why doesn't it
Yeah,
start that
why?
way?
Yeah, because we're clearing all this before we even know what a Rosh Hashanah is.
Why
and
doesn't
Rosh
it tell you
Hashanah.
where the
does.
pasuk says that
What?
Hoysol is
does.
also?
Where?
Yeah, you don't have the Gemara. You're missing the Aleph. If you have an art scroll, it has the Aleph.
No,
Daf Aleph. There's no one
no,
second.
seriously. Like we're clearing all this, and
What
we
about
don't,
the-
doesn't even say what a Rosh
Where's the
Hashanah-
pasuk that tells you that Hoysol is also midaraisa?
No,
small.
I think the Gemara, the Mishnah starts.
Shkoyach,
with
Shabbos.
So really, you could play volleyball, right? You could play volleyball.
How many of these are going to be in the closet for sure?
Always speaking in riddles.
Very cute. I'm gonna have it
When the
tonight.
Gemara analyzes it, it comes out. It'll come out in the Gemara. That's going to come out. So you're saying why
It's not a
didn't it bring
riddle.
that
It's
right at the
what
beginning?
is? What, define it.
Why didn't it bring that right at the beginning?
What is it? No,
So we say you have to go different. There's no difference. Is there really a difference? A fundamental. I think this is what you asked between Rishus Harabim and Rishus Hayachid. What's the difference between the two? There is none in this
No,
case.
but you bring up a good point. We're learning what you see is first let's set the ground rules. What's Rosh Hashanah, what's Rosh Hashanah, what's a
Right.
Karmel, what's a
Not
Matam
even in the
Dur.
Mishnah. I'm not forgetting about the Gemara. The Mishnah itself. It's
Yeah,
first
yeah,
Mishnah
yeah,
of
the
Shabbos.
Mishnah.
We're talking about taking it from this Rishus to this Rishus. What's the Rishus? What?
Well, according to one Pshat of the Gemara, that's what it means. You'd see as a Shabbos means there's two Rishuyas. There's Rosh Hashanah, there's Rosh Hashanah, and from that there's a lot of mitzvahs, a lot of rules come out. But your question is why doesn't it define what that means? That's a good question.
I'm sorry. It was, you know, it was
All the
like,
media equipment.
no. This is your seat, Shmuel. You have a box.
I need a media pass.
You have a box. Yeah.
You saw that?
Let's go ahead,
It's
Akiva.
amazing. Oh,
That's almost like miracle.
That's amazing.
Almost. That's
Go ahead.
What is that? The Rav and who?
No, it's